starting Monday night, August 8th. Watch Anderson Cooper 360 at 8 and 10 Eastern.
Michelle Bachmann has been drawing major media scrutiny since jumping into the presidential race, and much of it not exactly favorable. For instance, the Minnesota congresswoman has quoted the Lord as saying, "Be submissive, wives. You are to be submissive to your husband." Should that be an issue? And this week, the Daily Caller website broke the story about Bachmann's recurring problem with migraines, and the story became a pain for her campaign.
Congresswoman and GOP presidential candidate Michelle Bachmann today denied a report that she suffers from, quote, debilitating migraine headaches.
Enter Michelle Bachmann. A website reported she's taking medication for migraine headaches. Predictably, that set off a frenzy of media activity.
Plus, Michelle Bachmann responds to former aides who anonymously allege this rising force in the Republican presidential field suffers from migraines so debilitating they could undermine her ability to lead.
Jonathan Strong, that was your story in the Daily Caller. Women get more migraines than men. A lot of women nonetheless lead perfectly productive lives and have important jobs. Any hesitation about making this an issue?
If I had the same set of facts about Tim Pawlenty, Mitt Romney, any of the other male candidates, I would have written the same exact story. And I think that male candidates like John McCain and Fred Thompson have faced scrutiny about their health when they're running for president. And John McCain had to release 1,500 pages of documents. So I think this is a gender-neutral thing because your health is pivotal to your ability to serve as president.
Other candidates have faced scrutiny about their health, but probably for medical conditions or past medical problems that are more serious than having migraines.
Well, I actually don't take issue with if it was were a male candidate in the same circumstance would have written the same story. I assume that that's true, and I think it's a completely legitimate story. I also think it's a very treacherous story because we're still working our way here in 2011 through the minefield of gender politics. And when you have a health issue that is more often than not experienced by women, when it sort of feeds into, and this was not Jonathan's intention, but it does feed into the "not tonight, dear, I have a headache," the sense of women being weak, having vapors. You have to deal with it in a very, very sensitive way. And I think there's a tension between the need to be sensitive on the one hand there and the absolutely critical point that, especially when we're talking about people who are running for president of the United States, their health issues need to be on the table. Migraines can be debilitating. We want to know, I think the more information we have about candidates' health, the better off we are. But it is a tricky subject.
The question is how debilitating. And on that point, and I'll let you respond to Ruth as well, you granted anonymity to your sources. These are former aides and advisors to Michelle Bachmann. Why would they tell you this? Could they have an agenda? Why wouldn't they go on the record and yet they were saying things that clearly had the effect of hurting her campaign?
In an ideal world, obviously, you want to use named sources. In this case, these people were terrified that Michelle Bachmann, in running for president, either would, A, allow Obama to skate away with re-election if this came up, or B, if she actually did win president, be severely hurt by this condition.
Okay, so you're saying that they were sincerely motivated, not that they had some personal animus against the Congresswoman,
yeah.
but that if she were to be the nominee and this came out, it would help Obama win re-election, and secondly, how could she serve as president? But since they don't work for her anymore, why couldn't their names be used?
Well, actually, one of the three sources is an advisor to Bachmann. Okay. Present tense.
All right, so I can understand that. What about the other two? Why would you grant anonymity?
Because this was the only way to get out a story, in our estimation, that we thought was really important and we thought was true. And other news media outlets have corroborated all of the facts that we reported.
Except that the degree to which the migraines are debilitating is still very much an issue. Does the sourcing here bother you at all?
Well, I think that there's two things that bother me. We all simultaneously would prefer to have all of our sources go on the record and we'll use their middle initials, and we all understand as journalists that that's not always possible. I do think that when you're using anonymous sources and when the impact on the campaign is clearly going to be, let's call it debilitating, parsing their motives is a hard thing. The sources say that what they want is to save the country from a president who can't do the job, but is that really what's going on, or are they just trying to torpedo her campaign?
Right. You wrote this week, I mentioned this at the top, about Bachmann talking about being submissive to wives, being submissive to husbands. Is that a real journalistic issue? You kind of wrestled with it in your column.
was it legitimate for me to raise it? You know, I think by definition I thought it was legitimate to raise it. I wrote an entire column about it.
But you seem conflicted about it.
I'm conflicted about it only in this sense. She said, so just to set the stage for your viewers, she said in a church speech when she was running for the House in 2006 that the reason that she'd become a tax lawyer was that her husband had instructed her to be a tax lawyer, even though she had no interest in tax. And she said, and this was not, she wasn't making a joke, she was being completely sincere. The reason that she listened to her husband was that the Bible instructs wives be submissive to your husband.
Because we're running out of time, is this a case of media taking a biblical injunction too literally?
Yeah, I don't know.
You think it's fair game?
I think that parsing her views on family and how she chose her career is fair game, yeah, when she's running for president.
You also write, Ruth Marcus, for female candidates, much more than men, appearance matters. I'm glad I didn't write that. You get any blowback on that?
Not a peep of blowback, and look, everybody knows it. It's just there's some things, if you were a woman, it probably would have been easier for you to write that Bachmann story, and that was an easier sentence for me to write.
All right, that's a good note to end on. Ruth Marcus, Jonathan Strong, thanks for stopping by this morning. Up next.